Okay, so in the middle of this whole AI revolution, there's this quiet battle going on for who makes the most important chips. Now, we all know the big name, right? NVIDIA. But what if there's a serious challenger coming up that could actually reshape the entire landscape? Let's get into it. And this quote right here is the whole idea. While all the headlines and all the attention are on NVIDIA, the real story might be happening just under the surface. The data suggests something big is shifting, and we're going to explore exactly why AMD's new chip, the MI300X, could be the one that changes everything. So the big question is, what is the market missing here? Is there some hidden hardware advantage that people aren't seeing? Is it a misunderstanding of how these two companies stack up? Or, is the giant just too big to fail? Let's dig in and find out. All right, first up, let's properly meet the challenger. And look, this isn't just another company throwing a chip out there. This is a company with a very specific, super powerful product aimed right at the heart of the AI data center market. And they are not messing around. For years, let's be honest, NVIDIA has been the undisputed king of AI chips. It wasn't even a competition. But now, AMD has basically crashed the party, and they've brought a chip with some really serious hardware advantages. This is your classic David versus Goliath story, except in this version, David showed up with a rocket launcher. So this whole conflict, it really boils down to one simple but powerful dynamic. It's a fight between raw hardware power on one side and this deeply, deeply entrenched software ecosystem on the other. This is the core of the story. And this slide really lays out the battlefield perfectly. On one side, you got AMD's MI300X, the hardware beast. And on the other, NVIDIA's H100, which is backed by its legendary CUDA software. So let's dig into that hardware first. The numbers you see here, this is what really matters. I want you to think about it like this. If an AI model is like a giant brain, then memory is the disk space it has to work on. The more disk space you have, the bigger and more complex the problems you can solve all at once. While the MI300X just has a much bigger disk, way more memory, and faster access to it. This means developers can build bigger, smarter AIs, and they can do it faster and cheaper. And that right there is AMD's ace in the hole. But listen, hardware is only half the battle. NVIDIA's real strength, its superpower, is what we call its software moat, and that's CUDA. The best way to think about it is like the Windows or the Mac OS of artificial intelligence. An entire generation of developers literally grew up learning how to code on it. So asking them to switch isn't just about buying a new chip. It's like asking an entire industry to learn a new language overnight. And that is an incredibly powerful advantage. So we've got better hardware versus this massive software advantage. How does a tech battle like this actually translate into a financial opportunity? Well, let's check out the numbers. Analysts are now projecting billions of dollars in AI chip revenue for AMD just in the coming year. This isn't just some small player anymore. This is a huge signal. This is major cloud providers and big tech companies basically saying, yeah, the hardware is that good. We are buying in. And this chart really puts it into perspective. It's showing the projected growth rate for each company's data center business. Now, NVIDIA is growing off a massive base, which is amazing in itself, but look at AMD. Their growth rate is projected to be absolutely explosive. And that's the kind of acceleration that makes Wall Street really sit up and pay attention. This is exactly why some are calling this one of the fastest compounding hardware stories in AI. The idea here isn't just about AMD getting a quick win. It's that if they can actually deliver, they could ride this wave of compounding growth for years, grabbing a huge piece of an absolutely enormous pie. So how does all of this data translate into a real-world decision? To make this all a bit more concrete, let's walk through a case study of one investor's actual thesis. And just to be super clear, this is all for educational purposes. This is not financial advice. Okay, so just for total transparency, here's the real-world holding that we're looking at for this case study. You can see the number of shares, how much was invested, and the average cost. Again, this is just to show you how all the research we've been talking about can actually be put into practice. But here's the key. Here's the catch. Even with this really bullish outlook, the investor isn't buying more right now. And why is that? Well, it all comes down to a single word: execution. The hardware looks incredible on paper, but can AMD actually deliver these chips at scale, on time, without any issues? It's a classic show-me story, and believe me, the whole world is watching. And that brings us to the risks, which are very, very real.
Can they actually manufacture and ship these things at scale? Will competition with NVIDIA force them to drop prices, which would hurt their profits? What if the huge cloud companies, their biggest customers, decide to pause their spending? And then, of course, towering over everything is NVIDIA's software moat, which is still the biggest hurdle for anyone trying to compete.
So, to wrap up the thesis in a sentence, you got a really strong chip architecture and a massive market opportunity, but that's balanced by some very real execution risk. If AMD can pull this off, the upside is huge. But that word, if, well, that's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? So there you have it, a deep dive into the battle for AI chip supremacy. And this is way more than just a fight between two companies. It's really a clash of philosophies, hardware power versus software dominance. And it's going to shape the future of technology for all of us. Who's going to win? Well, only time will tell, but it is going to be a fascinating fight to watch.